Hey guys, so today I just want to quickly talk about incrementality when it comes to evaluating marketing spend and ROAS, and also the importance of doing holdout groups in order to pinpoint whether or not a new channel or even a tactic within a channel is effective. So while we primarily work within email SMS channels for retention and for some acquisition, we also sometimes layer in direct mail as another method to either recapture, win back, and or to support acquisition for net new consumers. So one of the clients that we're working with, what we did was we did an analysis on their direct mail channel because they had launched it about a year ago and implemented a lot of the typical sort of automation. So they had a cart abandonment, they had a checkout abandonment, they had a win back for lapsed customers, as well as a win back for lapsed customers, as well as for non-purchasers who are new acquisition or new names on the list. So with that said, what we did was we looked at the platform reported. I won't go into which exact platform because it's not exactly that important, but the platform that was doing direct mail, they reported their own attribution, and it was vastly high, i.e., it was saying that it was multiple times ROAS. So we wanted to challenge that fact from two angles. One is to just fact check their attribution with a more conservative attribution, vis-a-vis Shopify specific matching, i.e., like if someone was sent the direct mail in this time period, then did that particular customer actually purchase within that window? So just a challenge and make sure we have a counterpoint to fact check the platform reported attribution. And then secondly, we implemented a holdout analysis for a couple months. I think it was a little less than 2 months. Even though in this analysis we're looking at kind of maybe like a 45-day window. And we did a holdout where essentially looking at the cart abandonment or checkout abandonment rather pathways, where we took 20% of the people who would have gotten to the end of the pathway and triggered direct mail, pushed them into a holdout group where they didn't get the direct mail, and then the other 80% will get the direct mail. So the pathway really is when a contact abandons checkout, then first they're going to get email, then they're going to get SMS, and then if they don't convert off of either of those two channels, only then do they get direct mail. The purpose being we kind of hit the most efficient channels first and then go ladder down to the more expensive channels, which we'll talk about in a different video in terms of the stat ranking there and how to think about it. But anyways, because we're doing this holdout analysis, the idea is to compare the incremental effect of the direct mail sending out and against the cost of the direct mail to see if we're actually getting a respectable ROAS and be net positive in terms of the spend. Because if we just take the platform reported attribution, it will say, hey, you spent, I don't know, $1,000 in the last 1 month and you made 4,000, right? And the 4,000 people converted who had gotten the direct mail. The problem with that is if they didn't get the direct mail, if you literally did not give them messaging through that channel, a portion of them, sometimes a large portion of them, would have otherwise converted anyways, whether just organically or even though we have that stat ranking and the logic around trying to do email first, then SMS, and only then push out direct mail, they might convert at a longer window cycle than our delays for those messaging, right? So they might also get a campaign within that time period, email campaign or SMS campaign, and convert off of that. They might see a remarketing ad or whatnot and convert off of that. So with that said, by doing this holdout analysis, we can get a truer sense of what's that incremental ROI or incremental ROAS for that matter. So just want to kind of take you through this. For example, this is not necessarily statistical significant, but we wanted to push that into that directionality. And and just understand like, are we on the right track, or should we just like cut spend right now? So first of all, here the end result was there's an implied incremental revenue of $600 only, with a 3.73 uh, raw percentage lift on conversions, which is actually 66.6% relative improvement on conversions. So this ended up being net positive, even with our more conservative estimates, which is good because it is a win versus actually being non-productive there. But essentially, what we were looking at was we were looking at this control group, which was at like 20% holdout, and then the treatment group, which got the direct mail. Looking at our estimate of conversions relative to like our modified like Shopify way of seeing conversions, mapping the conversion rates over the 30-day window, total orders. Of course, the total orders and the raw number of conversions was going to be higher for a treatment group because there are more recipients. But that being said, the ratios should still be comparative. So here you can see we're significantly higher in terms of conversion rates within that window relative to control, even though AOV is down by a decent portion. That being said, how it shakes out is we are seeing a higher revenue per recipient, which is one of the more normalized numbers and what's important inside of this. So just to give a sense of what we're looking at relative to the platform reported attribution. So the platform reported attribution was 3.92K attributed to the mailers within a time period, which resulted in which equates rather a 5.31x over attribution relative to our measurements in terms of attribution. And then also the spend was $351, which means the provider reported ROAS is almost 9x, 355 compared to 3.192 here. Whereas if we measure only the incremental, i.e. the amount of revenue per recipient lift, the amount of conversion rate lift that is above the baseline holdout group, we're arriving at 1.7x ROAS, which is significantly different than this almost 9x. And this ends up being a positive ROAS, even though it is not the highest that it could be. So essentially, and then we'll go down to some of the specific details there, but basically the takeaway here is whenever you're introducing a net new channel or perhaps a net new tactic within a channel sometimes, let's say you're doing like influencer marketing with TikTok or whatnot, to always try to have a control holdout group so that you can evaluate the incremental differential there and see if it's worth the spend that you're pushing into it, rather than just take it at face value that, hey, all of this spend that you push is directly attributed to all of the revenue, which is not necessarily true because, as you've seen, people would have converted, a portion would have converted even if you did not push it through. So that's it.